Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Wine, Repeat, a podcast for all you wine lovers who, if you're like me, just cannot get enough of the good stuff. I'm Janina, your host, brand ambassador, wine educator, and sommelier. So stick with me as we dive deeper into this ever-evolving, wonderful world of wine. And wherever you are listening to this, cheers to you. Hello, wine friends, and welcome back to today's episode, the last of the year. Today, I am joined by Laura Oskwarek, the brilliant director of winemaking at Silver Oak, who oversees their iconic Cabernet blends of Napa Valley and Alexander Valley. In this episode, we'll taste and compare these two wines, and I wish for all of you to be able to taste these at some point. But the main focus today, Silver Oak's own Cooperage. We are going to be talking about everything from selecting the perfect tree, the art of toasting barrels, how Missouri oak differs from French oak, and why barrel toast is often called a winemaker's spice rack. Laura also shares, as a winemaker, how she balances oak influence in the wine. And here's a little wine fact to get you in the mood. The story of Cabernet Sauvignon in California begins in 1852, when French nurseryman Antoine Delmas brought the very first vines to the Santa Clara Valley. And then by 1976, there were plantings in Napa Valley. However, much of California's early Cabernet was wiped out by phylloxera in the late 1800s. Then you had the major setback of Prohibition, which was 1920 to 1933, and that's where the commercial winemaking was banned across the US. But by the 1940s, there were visionaries like Martin Stelling, along with Andrei Chelestchev and Cesar Mondavi, who began acquiring prime vineyards and planting Cabernet Sauvignon in Napa Valley, believing that this was a perfect match. And of course, this grape then went on to put California on the international map after the very famous 1976 Judgment of Paris, the blind tasting of Californian wines against the very best of Bordeaux and Burgundy. And today, Cabernet from California has proven its excellence, with Napa and Cabernet becoming virtually synonymous. If you love what you hear in the spirit of Christmas, please leave a rating or a review on your podcast app. It really helps get the episode out to more wine lovers like yourself. Now pour yourself a beside the fireplace kind of red wine, settle in, and enjoy the last episode of the year. Laura, I am so excited about asking you so many questions about your wines, oak, everything. But can we start with, you started out in microbiology, even worked at Yale. So there's this real, I guess, scientific background influence that you get, I guess, you bring to winemaking. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. So after I graduated from college, I wanted to take a little bit of a break. So I was really had these ambitions of going to medical school, and I had just finished out a very rigorous degree, and I needed a little bit of time off. I knew that I wanted to go back to school. I just wasn't exactly sure what that was going to be. So I was really fortunate enough to get a position at Yale University working in their neuromolecular psychology department. The lab that I was working in was doing studies on obesity and addiction, like addiction studies, basically, as related to food. And so I think my reason for wanting to work there was because I wanted to be around students. And obviously, Yale has some really incredible students, very smart. And that was a really pivotal point for me, because that was inspiring enough that, like, again, I knew I wanted to go back to school. And then I kind of decided that, like, maybe medical school was not the choice for me.
Okay. But then was there an aha moment in Denmark when you went, no medicine, I need wine?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did a study abroad in Denmark my junior year, and I was taking medical courses there. I was also taking ecology, a lot of science. Again, with this idea, like, okay, when I finish my degree, I'm gonna study for my MCAT. I'm gonna maybe go to medical school. But it was my time in Denmark that was really a transition for me. I lived with a family. I was quite young. This was my first time really going abroad, especially by myself.
Mm.
And the family that I lived with, really beautiful people. They lived with friends on a piece of land, and we rotated dinners with these other families every Sunday.
Aw,
And wine was always a part of
there it
our
is.
meals. So the combination of family, friends, a good meal, and a really nice bottle of wine became kind of this, you could say like an aha moment. It was so beautiful. It was a point of connection for me and them. And so that sat in the back of my mind after I came back to the United States and finished out my degree. That very much resonated with me.
I love that. So you then took it further. Wine
Mhm.
one, yay for us. You have also worked at Schramsberg and Nickel Nickel before joining Silver Oak. So what do you think those early Napa experiences taught you in terms of, I guess, craftsmanship and patience?
Yeah, craftsmanship is a really good word to describe that. If you do not like working harvest, this is not the industry for you, because you quickly learn how rigorous it is and how much hard work it takes. So
Mhm.
my first experience was working at Schramsberg and another beautiful family-owned winery with a focus on sparkling wine. I learned about it, like how to craft sparkling wine, and that was such a really wonderful experience. It was my first experience working an intense, chaotic, crazy harvest season with other people, and learning how to rely and work together as a team was a wonderful experience. To the point where even now today at Silver Oak, every time we have a celebration, whether it's toasting the first bins at harvest, we are always celebrating with Schramsberg sparkling wine.
Oh,
So I usually try to keep a bottle of Schramsberg in my refrigerator just for special occasions like that.
beautiful.
After Schramsberg, I had the opportunity to work at Nickel Nickel. Well, actually, Nickel Nickel was first. So that was my first experience,
Ah, okay.
but also a wonderful experience. So what I learned, again, a family-owned winery, their focus is on single vineyard wines, specifically Cabernet. So that really taught me about terroir and how
Mm.
location plays such an important role in the style of the wine and the nuance that we get throughout Napa Valley. So that was really incredible.
And let me ask you, going back to, if you're not going to work hard at harvest, don't be a winemaker. How many hours sleep do you think you get during the typical harvest season?
We are a very well-oiled machine here.
Oh,
So
that's good to hear. Okay.
efficiency is really important because safety is really important to us. However, I do work a lot. I sleep very little. During the peak of harvest for about 2 months, I might be working 6, sometimes 7 days a week. But again, I love it. I spend more time probably with my coworkers than I do with my family during harvest. And they're just an extension of my family. I work with really incredible people, and it's just a lot of fun.
But I think that's the whole point of wine. We do it because we love it. So I think in
Mhm.
the wine community, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of love for everything. Okay, one last question about harvest. I
Yeah.
always find this hilarious talking to winemakers who are exhausted. They just need to keep energized. It's all adrenaline. What is your go-to snack?
Oh,
What keeps you going during harvest?
see, we have a lot of inside jokes here. We have a big production team, and we're always joking about snacks. Because we have 2 Silver Oak facilities, and I'm constantly traveling between the 2 to check on the teams. I go to our Toomey facilities as well. It's always who's got the best snacks.
Who does have the best snacks? Who?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, sometimes I feel like Toomey has the best snacks.
Do they now?
But I am in charge of buying the snacks here. So some of my favorite snacks during harvest, I like to have fresh fruit.
Okay.
I'd like to have, every harvest is a little bit different. This harvest, I was like going more towards like salty snacks. So pretzels, potato chips. I like to have like cheese, just things. I like hoard them at my desk.
Yeah. Honestly, when I speak to most winemakers, they're always like cheese sandwich. Just, that's it. Bit of cheddar, bit of bread, no mucking around.
Something quick, something easy. One of the things that we really like to do here, like all of our facilities do this as well, but our production team specifically out of our Napa Valley location, which is my home base, we like to barbecue a lot. So
yes,
we'll
please.
pull the grill out onto the edge of the crush pad and we kind of all cook together as a team, where sometimes I don't know how I have the time, but usually I'll start cooking for the team and then we all just stop everything that we're doing mid-crush, mid-addition, or whatever. We all slow down and we take that time to sit and share a meal together, whether it's during lunch or in the evening. So food is very essential to what we do. We got to keep the team fueled, but we like to have a lot of fun with it. Again, it's that sense of community.
Listen, it sounds like, I'm glad that you have risen to director of winemaking, because quite clearly, if you're feeding the troops with a grill, I mean, and your beautiful wines, which we'll get to in a second, I'm sure, are delightful with some slightly charred meat. So tell me, let's talk about Silver Oak. I mean, what has been for you the biggest evolution that you've seen with Silver Oak since you started, and not just giving everybody beautiful barbecues?
Yeah. So I started in Silver Oak in 2009. So I have over 16 years of experience. And I would say I've seen a lot of change, but one of the biggest changes that I have seen in my tenure here with the company is around sustainability and innovation. So back in 2015, our Napa Valley location became the world's first LEED Platinum certified production facility.
Wow. What does that mean in reality?
Yeah, so it's leadership in energy and environmental design. So everything about the facility and what we do has a focus on water efficiency, energy, whether it's our use of solar panels, how we use our water responsibly. So there's a lot that goes into it, and a certification that we have to constantly make sure that we're upholding. That philosophy and that dedication to sustainability carried on with our Alexander Valley. So we're also LEED Platinum certified there for building design and construction. So that facility from the ground up, every building material, every product that went into that facility had to be vetted to make sure that it was compliant for this certification. And then also sustainability as a model for everything that we do out in the vineyard with our precision viticulture and our estate vineyards, growing and managing those properties, as well as everything to our packaging, trying to source as locally as possible, whether it's our glass, working with vendors that are close by, and then obviously with American oak. It's a very sustainable model for barrel aging.
Which we will get to. Now, you say precision viticulture. How do you define that? Is that also very much about, for instance, knowing exactly how much water to give to each vine by testing the soils in different ways? Is that really what precision viticulture is?
Absolutely. We have a powerhouse of a viticulture team here at Silver Oak and Toomey. And I sit in meetings with them and listen to all of the really fascinating, cool things that they're doing, all of the programs that they're using, how we're tracking water, how we're tracking vine health, the technology around. Recently saw the technology where they're going out and they're taking pictures They have cameras that they attach to their four-wheelers, and they go through the vineyards and they take pictures of all the vines, and we can know based off of visuals and where they're like the vine health, we measure sap flow. So like all of this is targeted towards giving the vines exactly what they need and not anything in excess. So that's where the term precision comes in for that.
It's fascinating. And I have to ask just one more question about water, because it is fascinating, because people don't realize the amount of water that gets used in a winery, especially during harvest time. Once you're cleaning out the tanks, and something as simple as, you turn on the hose, and if you then have to put the hose down on the floor and go somewhere else and you can't turn it off, you are just wasting water constantly. So you said water management is a massive, massive thing. Is there one thing that you guys have either developed or are doing or are most proud of that saves that water?
There's a bunch of things. So
can you say it in 1 minute?
Some of the smaller things are just really taking a deep dive on our operations and making sure that we're using the right equipment. High pressure when it comes to cleaning barrels or cleaning floors, because you're right, water is our number one resource here in the wineries and actually out in the vineyards. So a lot of cleaning and sanitation goes into what we do. Another thing that we're really proud about at our Alexander Valley Silver Oak facility, we have an MBR, biomembrane reactor, and we recycle all of our water at that facility.
Brilliant.
So if you have the opportunity to come and visit us at our Hillsburg facility and you walk through the cellar, you'll see purple hoses. So that is all the recycled water. We use that water to clean the drains, rinse down the floors. None of it makes it into the tanks, but this is our cleaning water.
Purple hoses.
Yeah.
So they're purple so that you can say, oh, this is this type of water, just not to mix it up. Hence why they don't have to be purple, presumably, you guys.
No, they could be any color. I don't know what the rules are with the coloring, but yeah, they are a distinct color so that the crew knows if they're going to be, say, washing down the floors or the drains, they're going to use the purple hoses. And then that water is captured, recycled, and then returned back to the winery. That water is also used to flush the toilets throughout that facility.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Purple hoses, everyone. Purple hoses. Look out for the purple hoses. So let's actually then move on to your cooperage. And I say yours. There are very few wineries that own their own cooperage. I mean, how rare is that? And how does it change your relationship, I guess, as a winemaker with oak?
It is very rare and something that we're really proud of. So the Duncan family were part owners of the cooperage for many, many years. It helped us help them with quality and consistency, because consistency is a really important thing for us. And then that culminated in 2015 with the Duncan family purchasing outright the facility, making Silver Oak the first North American producer to own a cooperage, an American oak cooperage. So you can imagine in
Quite
2015, very rare, we had a tremendous responsibility to then become experts in everything American oak. This idea of vertical integration and our ability to manage everything about our barrel program. And so we have done quite a bit of work and we've learned a lot along the way.
I don't even know where to start. Okay, how do you select a tree then that is good enough to become a wine barrel? Because this is going to make a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, so the American oak grows all over the United States. You can find it, I think, almost in every single state.
Okay.
But the first step is to find the trees, right? And to find barrel-worthy trees. So what happens is a standing timber grading. So teams will go out into the woods and they will find the American oak. They kind of grow like weeds in forests. And they select trees that have a couple criteria. So first, The base of the trunk from the ground up until about 8 to 10 feet has to be clear of any branches. And the straighter the tree, obviously, the better.
The better. Mm-hmm.
And then the other criteria, besides also just overall health of the tree, is the diameter. So they're looking for a tree that is at minimum 18-inch diameter.
Okay.
And then those trees are cut. They are then brought to the stave mill where they are quarter sawn and cut into stave wood.
Wow. Okay. Now, see, you've talked about that. That's the first requirement.
Mm-hmm.
From reading through your articles, it says that Missouri oak is said to offer this beautiful balance of spice and vanilla. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what makes that region so special for barrel wood? And, how does this Missouri oak that you're using differ from French oak? And as we know, American and French just in general, there's a big difference. So tell me more.
Yeah. So oak trees, when we think about like grapes, we think about terroir. The same thing applies to our oak trees. We've tried making barrels in very limited production from American oak from like Virginia or Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It has a signature, it has a style. It's not one that we like specifically for our wines. And what we have found is that in Missouri, the trees there tend to be ideal and they're perfect for what we're looking for. And the reason why is that Missouri is kind of right on the edge of the Great Plains. This is where the climate and the land and the area become a little bit more harsh. And that is where the trees grow maybe a little bit slower. They're a little bit more dense. They're a little more hardy. And so what we find in trees specifically from this area is a little bit of a tighter grain. And that just ends up working really well for both our Silver Oak Napa Valley and Alexander Valley Cabernets.
Interesting, because typically when I explain in kind of layman's terms the simplicity of French oak versus American oak, typically French oak has a tighter grain and therefore is more of the darker spices, whereas you go more the coconut and the vanilla with the American oak, with it being less tight. So you're already saying actually the Missouri oak has slightly tighter grains. So would you say compared to some other American oaks, this is somewhere maybe like a halfway house between the coconut and the vanilla and the black pepper spice and the mocha?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could probably make that connection. American oak is just, it's a different animal than French oak. And you mentioned, yes, French oak is a tighter grain. American oak is a looser grain. It's a little more porous. But it's also just generally as a comparison to French oak, it's less tannic.
Okay.
And there are other components that will play into for stylistic outputs for the wine. So when I think about oak, and this will hold true for American oak or French oak, there's really three components. So the sourcing of the wood, where you're finding it, where, in France, they have forests all over the place and people have their preferences. Same thing with American oak here in the States. So sourcing of the wood, seasoning of the wood plays a critical role. And then the toasting component. So when we started it back in 2015, we took a deeper, harder look at those three things.
Okay.
Sourcing was natural, right? It's what's there. We already knew that that's what we liked. It ends up being like a really sustainable model, back to our sustainability conversation. And then we started exploring seasoning, the effects of different seasoning, time points, and then toasting levels.
So you've mentioned seasoning and toasting, and I'll be honest, in my head, I kind of thought that was the same thing. It quite clearly isn't. Now, so can you explain seasoning versus toasting?
Absolutely. So in the progression of the barrel making, the trees are cut. They are brought to a stave mill. Those logs, those 8 to 10-foot logs, are cut into stave wood, which are like planks of wood.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Orton is our master cooper at the Oak Cooperage in Missouri. So he will go to the stave mills and he will personally hand select each piece of stave wood. He brings that wood back to the cooperage. The cooperage is the place where we cooper the barrels, or we make the barrels. So outside of the cooperage, out in the grass, Danny and the team will stack those wood planks.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like log cabins, kind of,
Yeah.
a visual.
I've definitely, in my head, I can imagine it. Mm-hmm.
So there'll be these big stacks of wood out in the stave yard, is what we would call that. And that wood will sit outside for a period of time, depending on the style or what somebody might be looking for. For us, we have found that 22 to 24 months of seasoning.
Right.
Is
that's what seasoning is.
For us.
The seasons that the wood is out, changing and adapting flavor.
Exactly. And so, you can imagine that wood sitting outside for any period of time, especially in an area like this where the winters are very cold and the summers are very humid. I mentioned we're kind of on the edge of the Great Plains. There are forests, but the land is pretty flat. And so the wind comes whipping through. And so there's a chemical impact, there's a UV impact. There's a microbial impact of the wood sitting out in the elements.
Whew, okay.
And so after about 2 years, Danny and the team will unstack that wood and they'll start bringing the planks inside the cooperage. And at that point, these beautiful fresh cut wood looks very gray and very weathered. And you would think that they look ruined, but all of the harsh compounds or those raw wood characters that we do not want in our barrels is leached out. It leaves this black, kind of almost tarry looking substance on the ground, all of that stuff that comes out of the wood. And then Danny and his team, they bring those planks inside, as I mentioned, and they start running them through machines that kind of shave off that crusty gray exterior. Mm-hmm. They shave them, they plane them, and then they shape them into what will be the stave wood that will make a barrel. And at that point, Danny will start constructing the barrels. And then the final step is the toasting, which just happens over a wood fire.
I mean, maybe we'll go into toasting a little bit more, but for you, with the Cabernet Sauvignons that you have from Alexander Valley and Napa Valley, which I'll taste in a second. That might be useful, actually. This might be the segue to pouring. But how do you feel that the oak grain tightness, then the seasoning, and then the toast levels, how have you chosen that for what it's going to add in terms of flavour and texture to these two very different wines?
That is another great question, because we are dealing with a lot of variables, including two very different wines, the Napa Valley and our Alexander Valley. And so we, as I mentioned in 2015, that was really our call to dive deep, understand what is happening with our barrels. And we're looking for consistency. We're a brand that's been around since 1972. We have a customer base that understands who we are and what the style of our wines are. And so we want to not only understand what works, we also want to understand what doesn't work. And so since 2015, we've been doing a lot of experimenting with seasoning and toasting. And we dialed in that I mentioned seasoning of 22 to 24 months is ideal for us. I should actually take a step back and mention that the reason why we're able to do these kind of cooperage trials in-house is that Silver Oak does something very unique. We blend before we barrel down. So we have one homogeneous blend that we can then assess how that blend, whether it's the Napa or the Alexander Valley, does in a barrel that was made from wood that was seasoned for, say, 36 months. We can evaluate what the Napa or the Alex tastes like after 2 years of being in a barrel that has a medium plus toast versus a medium toast versus a heavy toast. So we do these experiments. They're about 12 barrels each. They're very small. Our cellar crew, bless them, because they have to keep all of these special lots very separate over the 2 years of aging that we do. And then our winemaking team tastes them blind after 2 years. And we talk about the quality of these wines. What do we like? How is this working? And so over many, many, many years, we have narrowed down our seasoning. 24 months, 22 to 24 months is perfect. Luckily, it's perfect for both our wines. Now we're on this journey of understanding how toast affects the quality of our wine. We recently tried what we would call a heavy toast. And again, it was a small barrel lot. I went into it thinking, that's probably going to be too much. It's going to overpower the wine. And we taste them blind, so I'm not biased when I'm actually tasting the wines. And we grade them and then we talk about them. And we found that we really do enjoy that heavy toast. Having said that, we're not going to move everything to a heavy toast because, again, consistency of our product. But what we have learned is that we have not yet achieved the maximum toast level that we like as a component of our style. So a lot of experimentation, fortunately, a lot of tasting. It's one of the perks of the job.
I mean, this is what I'm doing now. I mean, I'm just here just to check out, make sure that the wines are all good. Just, make sure that you're doing a good job. That's it. Which, by the way, everyone, Laura's done a great job. Like,
good.
You may carry on. So you're tasting a lot to obviously see. And so actually, is this something that you're going to keep on pushing that little bit further and kind of seeing how heavy you really can go with your wines?
Yes. So even though we've dialed in seasoning, we still do seasoning trials. It takes us 5 years really to learn anything about how a wine is going to perform. So from the vine to the customer, it's a 5-year process. We do extended aging in barrel and then another period of extended aging in bottle. So as you can imagine, in the meantime, decisions have to be made before we kind of learn. So we're taking in the early years of all this experimentation, we were taking our best guess. And now that has paid off, and we really do know what works well for each of our wines. One of the big differences with our Silver Oak Napa versus our Silver Oak Alexander Valley, when we're talking about the cooperage and about barrels, is that we've found that the Napa can hold a lot more new oak versus used oak. It's a little bit more, it just holds that barrel character a little bit better without becoming overpowered by the essence of the barrel, so to speak.
Yeah, that is so interesting because I'm tasting the two. And obviously I'm listening to you, so I'm not fully like meditative with these wines yet, which I will be later. But straight away, Alexander Valley, I'm getting even like some raspberries and more red fruit, and it's more lifted and it's a little bit more herbaceous. And I'm maybe getting some sage and more of that dill with a little sweetness of oak. But there's a more herbal brightness to it. And then I go to the Napa and it's more muscular, it's bigger, it's bolder, it's more opulent fruit. And the vanilla, which there's vanilla in the other, in the Alexander Valley, but it's so much more defined. This is a much more powerful, darker, that even the tannins are chewier, more muscular nature. So actually, for everybody listening, what I just described in terms of style, I'm tasting both 2020 vintage, which is the current vintage on the market. So you've had 5 years in terms of the aging and experimenting. Has the Napa Valley, it's a Cabernet blend, it's not 100% Cabernet, but we'll call it Cabernet Sauvignon. Has it had more oak and heavier toasted oak compared to Alexandra?
Yeah, I think you did a really good job at describing the differences between these wines. And to your question about oak with Napa, yes, the short answer is yes. Because the Napa is more of a traditional Bordeaux blend and we have access to a lot of mountain fruit, there's a deep richness to the Napa Valley and a complexity. And that, by the nature of that wine, it has the ability to hold on to more new oak. We age both of our wines for 2 years. It's just a matter of, do we want to use more new oak versus fused oak? Are we looking at maybe using a slightly higher percentage of like a medium plus toast on the Napa? And that tends to be the case. So our Napa Valley is 85% new oak every vintage.
Gosh, that is loads for people who have never looked at a text sheet. Realistically now as well, and I say that's huge, just as to explain myself. 100% oak, new oak is used, was definitely used. It's not an abnormal thing, but certainly it seems these days that everyone's really holding back and they're going for the more restrained style. So it's not as standard to go towards that 100%. Yet this doesn't appear to be 85%, and that's the point. It can handle it, as
it can
you said.
hold it very well.
Yeah. I'm sorry I interrupted you just because I had to.
No,
I was dealing with I was shocked. I did not expect. Thought maybe 50%, but 85%. Okay, ooh la la. Continue.
Yeah. So as a contrast, our Alexander Valley traditionally is about 50% new oak. And that makes sense. The Alexander Valley is a predominantly cab-based wine. We hover at about 95% Cabernet with every vintage. The Napa, we hug the line. We need to be 75% to call it Cabernet Sauvignon on the label for compliance. And every year we are up between 75 to like 78%. I think the 2020 that you're enjoying right now is about 82% Cabernet. So we went a little bit heavier that vintage with Cab. And I think it just impacted the depth of that wine and the expression of that wine really beautifully.
And it's still, honestly, for everybody listening, when I say that the Napa is big and it's powerful, there's more opulent fruit and it's muscular, but there is still freshness to this. I'm sure I'll find a way to get back to these wines again. But talking about toasting, so we've said that we toast over a fire. If I'm not wrong, you also have a really cool toasting area in your facility, which is not the same as most cooperages. Can I stop there so that you can take over, please?
I would love to talk about the cooperage. So we toast all of our barrels over a wood burning fire, and that is becoming actually more and more unique as cooperages become other cooperages. Their inventories increase. They need a faster way to get the toast levels. We still do it in a very traditional way, and the way that our fires are situated, they're under the ground. It's under a platform. The barrels are rolled over kind of a hole on a platform, and the fire is underneath. And what we see with that is this very slow, gentle, even toasting on our barrels. So it takes a little bit longer, but the quality and the craftsmanship and the tradition are still very much part of everything that we do at the cooperage.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with it. Kind of feels, it seems obvious to do it like that. But no, whenever you see normal cooperages, they create almost a fire pit. And then I guess, would they lift up the barrel and then put it over the top? I assume. I don't even know.
Yeah, so a lot of places will finish their toasting over pots.
Yeah.
And we do have pots that play a role in part of the construction and shaping of the barrel, but the final toast is done exclusively over these pits.
I love that. And I read that you guys are describing, after toasting the wood, you get flavors of caramel and roasted marshmallow. I mean, is this true? I mean, roasted marshmallow.
Sounds delicious.
Right? I mean, I've never actually put a roasted marshmallow in my tasting notes, but I think I might start looking out for it.
It's the caramelization of the sugars naturally in the wood. So in my time at our cooperage and with my time talking with Danny, and I asked, like, so when you're toasting the barrel, like, this is a craft, it's a skill, right? What are you looking for? And the way that he describes it is that with like a medium toast barrel, like you can visually see the differences happening as the wood is starting to get a little bit of that kind of toasted profile. But he goes, there's an aromatic component to it. So with that medium toast, he's looking for like a baked bread. And then as we're going to a medium plus toast, he says he's looking more for that kind of caramelized, that like, yeah, kind of like a caramel or that toasted marshmallow aroma. And it's at that point, he said, in the kind of the last little bit of toasting, the heat from our fires crystallizes the sugar, and he says it looks like glitter inside the barrel. So it's very whimsical. It's very beautiful. And I can imagine, especially this time of year as it's starting to get cold, with winter approaching, that the cooperage, it just smells absolutely beautiful and heavenly. And when he talked about glitter in the barrels, again, it's just the crystallized sugar. I can just picture it. It sounds magical.
Listen, you had me at roasted marshmallow, but you just sealed the deal with glitter. That's it. I'm going to become a Cooper. I think this is my destiny. Can I ask, well, slowly, I think I'm concluding on the oak, but I might not. How much does it actually cost to produce, or if you were selling that barrel, and how long does it take to actually, I guess, make one barrel? You've already said seasoning itself is 2 years-ish, but to then actually, from when the seasoning is ready, how long is it taking you?
So, well, it takes, and I was talking with Danny, he said it takes about 2 man-hours to actually construct a barrel.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That
was incredibly impressive, having visited the cooperage and seen and been able to they entertain and were very patient with me to help me make a barrel that was very wine worthy. My barrel did not leak when it was delivered to the winery.
Well done.
But it definitely took me more than 2 hours to make it. It took me like a full day, and I had a lot of help. But 2 man-hours.
Which seems normal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These people are, I guess these people are professionals.
I should just leave it to them. It was a very good experience to understand the craftsmanship and the amount of experience and effort and that it takes for these very skilled people to be able to make these barrels. So, by the experts, about 2 hours
and
to
how much,
make.
Yeah.
And then the price point. So we're about maybe $600 US. So we're looking at American oak is about half the price of a typical French oak barrel.
But still, so that is not cheap for anyone who
there's a lot of money that goes into our winemaking in terms of our cooperage. But the money portion of it should in no way be an indicator of quality. American oak is just very different. It's also local. I mean, we're talking about maybe 1,000 miles away from where the wineries are, but we're not shipping these from Europe. They're not going on a boat. It's a local product, essentially. And American oak is a more sustainable product than French oak just because of the way it can be processed. French oak needs to be split along the grain, and the best of the best wood that is wine worthy is used to make barrels. That drives up cost, obviously.
Am I right in thinking, because of the grain, it's American oak, I always believed it splits less. You're saying it's about how they cut it. So, or is it more a case that there's less wastage with American oak? Is that more the reason?
Yeah, so American oak can be quarter sawn. It doesn't need to be split like French oak. Like those 8 to 10 foot logs go to the stave mill and the saws slice and dice it.
Interesting.
It's way more sustainable. We get more wood, more usable barrel wood out of a log, an American oak log, than I would say we get out of a French log. And so you get a little bit more bang for your buck in that regard as well.
Amazing. Okay. I have been tasting these wines over and over again because that's the kind of person I am. Yeah, due diligence. And I can obviously see stylistically they're very different. So just for anybody who's going, actually, Alexander Valley versus Napa Valley, quite clearly I'm getting that darker fruit, that more intense flavours. There's more tannic structure with the Napa Valley compared to Alexander Valley. What's the climatic differences? What is affecting these Cabernet blends?
Yeah. So 2 very different AVAs, Alexander Valley versus Napa Valley. So let's talk about the Alex. I think you described the wine really beautifully earlier. It is a cab dominant wine. We are sourcing a lot from estate properties. The weather in Alexander Valley tends to be very different. Hotter days, but cooler nights. We're one mountain line closer to the Pacific. And in Napa Valley, we can have some really hot days, but the temperatures stay fairly moderate throughout the day and evening. And then the Napa, just as a style, is also different because it's that Bordeaux blend. We are cab dominant, not as much as our Alexander Valley. Like I mentioned, they're about 95%, whereas the Napa is about 75, 76, 77%. But there's a huge influence of Merlot in the Napa Valley. And Napa Valley, we have access to mountain fruit. One of our estate properties is at the very top of Atlas Peak Mountain, and we are sourcing fruit all the way from the mountaintop down into the valley where some very premier vineyards are growing. And so we had this beautiful spectrum of sourcing. And then we talked a little bit about the cooperage differences. So Napa tends to be, again, 85% new oak compared to 50% new oak with the Alexander Valley. And we use a little bit more of a heavier toast or a medium plus toast on the Napa.
Yeah. Honestly, it's fascinating, just climatically, but also again, like the blend, the oak. There's so many variables. When you try and I smell a wine and taste a wine and work out what the winemaker has done and the choices. There's so many choices.
There really are, for sure.
Oh, dearie me. Honestly, I love these. For anybody who wants to treat themselves to Christmas and who doesn't deserve a treat at Christmas, everybody? Now, these are not your typical Monday night wines. These are incredible wines. These are wines that are going to age. My God, these are babies, actually. They're beautiful and approachable now. I have decanted both of these wines for an hour, so everyone, hence, that's probably a good idea anyway. But these are special wines or even collector's wines. So for anybody who in the UK, obviously America, I'm sure you guys can get it everywhere. Just go to the winery. The UK listeners, the Wine Treasury has both of these wines. I'm drinking 2020 vintage. The Alexander Valley wine is £132 and the Napa is £240. So, just everybody think about buying a bottle of each. I mean, that must be pretty much a Beyonce concert ticket, right? I mean, you can watch Beyonce on the telly and then you can spend the rest of the day going through these wines with some people, share the costs, and just have a moment and compare. Listen to this. You've listened to this podcast. You have an idea about what's going on, and enjoy two of the great Cabernet wines from California and see how stylistically different they are. What do you think? That sounds like a plan. You'd rather this than a Beyonce concert, right? Surely. Makes sense.
I love that.
Sorry, Beyonce, if you're listening, I think Beyonce is definitely a listener of this podcast. She's going to be writing me a very strongly worded email. But anyway, never mind. Just send her a case. It'll be fine. You'll calm
It'll
her
be
down.
okay.
As we sum up, you are one of the leading women in Napa. So may I ask you, how have you seen just culture change for women in wine? Just thought I'd throw that in there. Sneak it in there as we finish up.
Sneak it in. Yeah, women have played a critical role in the wine industry from the very beginning. And I think what's been really wonderful to see is women leading from the front more, and not even just in production, in all facets of the wine industry, from sales and hospitality to working in restaurants, sommeliers and masters of wine, all of it. So I've seen that shift, but it takes a lot of effort. And I am a firm believer that behind every successful woman, there is a group of women cheering her on. And I think that love and support and sense of community really helps influence women and give them opportunities to not only just succeed, but to thrive. Here at Silver Oak, I have the fortunate opportunity to work with some incredible women. Our viticulturalist, Allison, is a woman. She is a wealth of knowledge and experience. I love to pick her brain. I find inspiration every day in the women that I work with. And the industry, I think, as a whole has done really well in mentorship and these women's groups that are coming up all over the place that give women an opportunity to meet with one another, to share ideas, to get support in an environment that is very kind and, again, very much cheerleading women forward. So there's been a big shift. Women are starting to very much pave the way within this industry, and I am living for it.
Me too. Now, I have another question moving on from that. Is there one moment that you can share with us? We talked about harvest snacks and long hours, but is there a moment from harvest that still makes you smile, or does it make you laugh, every year? What's the moment?
Oh, my goodness.
The moment, the one moment.
Oh, the moment. Oh, we bring so much joy as a team.
I love that.
I think. Oh, so we have Friday themes, and to see a bunch of men dress up in costumes every Friday during harvest brings me a lot of joy. Okay, so one harvest a couple of years ago, it was a Friday theme. And we let the crew decide, you want to do Hawaiian shirts or you want to do tie-dye. And they were like, no, I want to do sparkles and glitter.
Yes!
And I go, okay, let's do it. And so we had some guys come in with like gold, sparkly, like outfits on, and they wore them all day long in the cellar, on the forklift. Every time I went down into the cellar or walked through, it was just absolute pure joy. And I think about that now, and there are so many moments, but it's just the idea of everybody coming together. And yeah, that was our glitter moment. I don't know if the guys at the Cooperage are going to want to do that, but they have their own glitter. in the barrels.
Well, I hope that got documented somewhere on socials for people to see that glitter moment. Right. I'm gonna challenge you now. This is going to be tough for you. I am going to ask you a question. I need you. You've got one sentence. You can give me the answer and some sort of sentence to follow, but not much more than that. You're not allowed. So, American oak or French oak?
Well, I mean, okay. American oak.
Why?
Obviously, that's
You've got
what
one
we
sentence.
It isn't, for us, it's not a competition. It's just a style choice. We use a lot of French oak at Toomey. We use French oak on Timeless. There is a place for it. Beautiful, exceptional. However, at Silver Oak, we are 100% American oak. And it's something we're proud of. So,
Fine.
yes.
Okay, well, even harder question. Napa or Alexander Valley? Where's the magic at right now?
You are being unfair.
It's mean. Take it where you want to.
The magic is the moment you open up one of those bottles.
Cheating, fine. Okay.
Yeah. So 2020, as you mentioned, I don't know if the 21 Alex is available abroad.
Don't think
but that
so,
is
yeah.
our current release here of our Alex. And so I don't even have a favorite. It's depending on the mood and it's depending on what somebody wants to open. I will enjoy it, whichever wine it is.
Of course. Okay, barrel toast level. Light, medium, or heavy? I think I know where you're going. That one's easy.
Our standard is a medium toast.
Okay. Oh, no, I thought you would just say heavy. Just, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Cabernet Sauvignon with steak or with dark chocolate?
I would go for a savory meal with either one of our wines. Although I do drink them on their own while I'm cooking. So
So we're going steak. Okay, and to finish off, you have made lots of wine. I can only imagine you've tasted lots of wine, visited some wine regions. What is the one wine region everyone should visit in 2025 other than Napa and Alexander Valley?
My goodness. I think the wine industry deserves a lot of love right now. And I think no matter where anybody is, there is probably a local winery, even if they're making some kind of a fruit wine or some kind of there is something close to everyone. I would highly recommend and suggest, if you cannot come to Napa Valley, that you support where you are and support these small businesses or larger ones and give the love back, because the wine industry really definitely needs that right now.
How beautifully diplomatic, but also kind of deep at the same time. Thank you, Laura. We are not in the same place, so I have two glasses, so there we go. Oh, that was just supposed to be a cheers, but now I've just created a spa bath for everyone. There you go, everyone. As we bid farewell and we say goodbye to Laura, may we all feel more relaxed and tranquil. That's beautiful. I don't know about you, I'm feeling very calm. But I shall thank you, and we shall catch up in real life, hopefully, at the winery in Napa. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Much appreciated. Speak to you soon. Oak is such an integral part of the story of wine, yet often overlooked, and it shapes so much of what we taste and experience. I hope that this episode has sparked your curiosity, inspired you to uncover more wine stories and geek out with me a little bit more. For now, though, I am taking a 4-week break to recalibrate and spend time with my loved ones, and I hope you can do the same, finding moments to breathe, reconnect, and not just enjoy the wine in your glass, but connect with yourself through all the challenges and, I hope, many joys of this past year. I hope that you feel stronger and ready to embrace 2026, a year full of new adventures and stories to turn into memories. When I'm back on January the 19th, make a note, we will dive in as we mean to go on, chatting with Jane Masters, Master of Wine, and Andrew Neither about their fascinating and very unboring book, Rooted in Change, which explores sustainability across the vineyards, wineries, and wine logistics, and uncover some of the decisions behind the scenes that shape the wines that we love. Now, to finish, a short wine quote from Robert Louis Stevenson, and he said, "Wine is bottled poetry." Here's to a very magical new year, sending you all of my love and light. Until next year, wine friends. Cheers to you.